Alright, everybody, I'm just doing a quick recording for us for today. Today is a reading day, so we're just going to quickly go through this. So in the yellow chart on your homepage in class, there will be the audio and the link for the actual story Rip Van Winkle. And the main question that you are going to want to have that you're going to want to have in mind as you're reading it is how being able to explain how Rip Van Winkle is a metaphor for what the new America was experiencing after gaining independence from England. And so here's some things to keep in mind as well when you're reading. It's that America's a blank slate at this point in history. It didn't really stand for anything except for maybe rebellion. And that meant different things to different people. They're a brand new country. They don't have much going in terms of history or anything like that. They're able to create whatever they want. In terms of age, the old people were already comfortable with who they were. They knew who they were. They were set in their ways. Young people haven't really figured their life out yet. And then Rip Van Winkle is the one that exemplifies the people that are kind of caught in the middle, right? They're not old and already comfortable with who they are, and they're not too young to be formed by this new America. They're kind of just lost because their identity was taken away from them. And then confusion caused by a change of authority. So we went from King George, the big bully, to a democratic society. Totally different government makeup. And so it's literally like waking up one day and realizing your country is not governed by the same people, which is basically exactly what happens to Rip Van Winkle. And so this is a political allegory. He stands for the identity crisis that is happening to America. So, there was these people that they literally woke up one day and they were no longer subjects of King George, and they weren't really subjects of anyone yet because it was a brand new country and they didn't know what was happening. So it was kind of like they were going through a midlife crisis, but as a country. And so then there's this quote here that talks about kind of how Rip Van Winkle felt when he woke up after the Revolutionary War. And it says, "God knows I'm not myself, I'm somebody else. That's me yonder, no, that's somebody else. Got into my shoes. I was myself last night, but I fell asleep on the mountain, and they've changed my gun, and everything's changed, and I'm changed, and I can't tell what's my name or who I am." And so that's kind of how people were feeling as well. They woke up, and everything was different. And so keeping in mind what it's about, the story, it's about how tradition, and it's about how things change and how our identity has changed as an American. And then think about the power of myth stories, and the power of nature. Those are things that are very heavy within this story. And then the gendered dimension of American imagination. So keep in mind how they treat women versus how they treat men in the imagination story of this story. And then look at the domestic life versus public life. How was he treated differently in the domestic with his wife versus publicly? And then also think about the gender dimension with his wife in the public versus domestic as well. How were they different? And so this chart, let me go right here. So this one, you guys have this in your chart on the homepage. But in the essay that we talked about on Tuesday, you have to look at picking two examples of each of these characteristics in mythical stories. And so we have a little chart here to help you out. So you're going to be looking for examples of how it was set in the past in a remote and exciting place. So think about where it took place. It took place in the mountains. It took place off. It wasn't necessarily remote, but it was set in the past for us, set back in the time of the Revolutionary War. And then how was it filled with strange or exaggerated characters? Think about the wife, how exaggerated she was. Think about how he was kind of a strange character as well. Think about the the creatures on the mountain that he kept thinking he was hearing and seeing. Features incredible, heroic, impressive, magical, or mysterious events. Well, he fell asleep for 20 years. That's kind of magical and mysterious, right? What else was there that you can cite? And then a positive message about a nation or its people. How do they show that in Rip Van Winkle? And so you're going to find quotes with page numbers, and this is going to help you with the setup for your paper, your essay. And then there's three different, in this graphic organizer, there's three different things that you're looking for. So of these elements, there's humor. What events occur during his sleep? How is Rip seen as an icon? And then image of America as a vast, beautiful, and full of possibilities. So looking at the first one here, what historical events occurred while he was asleep? So looking at the story, think about some of the events. He slept through the Revolutionary War. I'll open this up so you can see it. So for humor, here's a few of them that we thought about. So he slept through the Revolutionary War. He woke up and the hotel, instead of having, a sign of King George, it was a sign of General Washington. And there was a different flag on the in front of the hotel. And then you're looking at how a guy was talking about how they needed to elect people for the members of Congress. And then he was like, he had no idea what was Rip woke up and he had no idea what they're talking about. He was very confused. And then an innkeeper was killed at the battle and he had no idea what was happening. As an icon, he's not very much like, Robin Hood or someone like that where they're dashing, but he was very likable. He had a larger than life quality. Everybody liked him except for his wife. And so there was, you can go through and find quotes where they talk about how he was very lovable and kind because he was very helpful to his friends and they all liked him, but he wasn't necessarily that way towards his wife. And then looking at the landscape of America is vast. He was, if you're looking at it in the story, you can see that it was in the mountains and it was very alone and remote. And Irving was born after the Revolutionary War, and so he never knew America as a British colony, so he was giving it that image of being so full of possibility, and that he was kind of putting his country up on a hill and up on a pedestal, so it was better than those older countries of Europe where it wasn't as big. If you look at the map of the world, America is very large compared to European countries, and so he was making America seem bigger and better than all of the old places. Okay, these were just in case we did them in class. And then this one right here is just a quick reminder. Let me zoom it back in for you, of what we're looking for the essay. So the prompt is down here. How does he incorporate at least 3 of the characteristics into Rip Van Winkle? And so what were the characteristics of a mythology? Right here. So they're in the past, they're remarkable characters, they have heroic or magical events, and they convey a positive message. So you need 3 of these. So 3 of these 4 you need to come up with. And so how does he use at least 3 of these 4? And what impact do these have on the story or on the reader's experience of the story? And so if you go in and you fill out this chart for the 3 of the 4, and then you look at how some of these events occur and help kind of spur on the characteristics, that will really help you. So if you use those 2 graphic organizers, they're going to really help you, sorry, I went to the wrong one, fill out this essay. Now remember, it's 5 paragraphs. So you have that introduction, your 3 body paragraphs, and then you have your conclusion. So your 3 body paragraphs, you should have 1 for each of your 3-point characteristics. Your timeline's up here, so it's due on the 26th of October, so you have quite a while to write this. And so make sure you're focusing on these things over here, so the time period, the strange and exaggerated characters, the heroic and magical and mysterious. So you're looking at those four main characteristics of a mythology. And if you, while you're reading it, you notice one that you think would work, make sure you write down the page number and where it was, so then you can go back and find it for your essay. That's why we're going over it now. So make sure you watch it and then keep these in mind as you're reading, and you can pinpoint some possible quotes that you can add into your essay. All right, and then here's the usual chart. So if you have questions about anything, please reach out to us. That's why we have it in a workday and we have this in a condensed video for you.